Okay, so we'll switch to English now and we'll go to Gustavo Silva. Gustavo, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Hey, yes, yeah, we can see you and hear you. Where are you from?
I'm from Porto,
Okay,
Portugal.
nice.
I want to apologize firsthand that I'm moving house and I'm in this relatively big living room that is empty. Hopefully the echo isn't too much.
No, that's good. We can hear you good, and
Cool.
I think it's fine. I'm not sure about the connection or the video, but we can see you. Okay, so you will share your screen and you will tell us more about your application or secure application to find issues. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So before that, I didn't prepare. I think this kind of demonstration is actually better with a simple hands-on example, but it should suffice to explain the concept. And before we get into that, I would like to introduce myself briefly. So my name is Gustavo Silva. I'm a security engineer from Porto, Portugal. I work in the application security engineering team at Paddy Power Betfair. And it's precisely about a project we did over the last year that I want to talk about today. I'll now share the screen, which you should be seeing a Firefox private browsing window.
We can see it.
Great. So in the fall of 2019, there was a tool that made a relatively big amount of buzz in the news feeds that was called Shgit. So as it stands, Shgit is a tool that finds secrets in real time. Despite saying here GitHub, Gists, GitLab, and Bitbucket, it's only integrated in GitHub. And I'm going to show you the real site of the tool. And I'll disable this ientropy strings because otherwise it will clutter up with a lot of stuff that we don't want to talk about. So basically, the way this tool works is when developers push code into public repositories, and I really want to emphasize here the public repositories, in the sense that it only works for, public repositories. It will clone the repository, scan the code for these sensitive data, and it will add another entry in this web page that you're seeing here. When we found out about this, we were particularly curious because, as you can see, it really finds interesting stuff like Google OAuth keys, private keys, configuration files of many sorts. And if I kept looking at this every time, it still pops up interesting stuff, right? So let me go back to the repository. There's two main components in this tool that really had us very interested in this. One is that I'm not going to show you because it's code and I don't think it's that useful, but what's important is it's a very simple regular expression matching engine that powers this. And the way that the tool works is the second reason why it caught our attention, and it's this configuration file. So basically, things to highlight is you can somehow configure things to ignore in this tool, and you can also add your own signatures, which is basically things that you want the tool to look for. These first entries are fixed things, like I don't want any back files or other extensions, which are Microsoft BitLocker recovery keys. But if I scroll down a little, you'll start to see things that are very common to find in source code, and you don't want that, like AWS keys, like as you see here, or Google OAuth keys. It's that one. And there's many more. These kinds of tokens have one thing in common, which is a common and predictable format, meaning that they can be convert it into a regular expression, right? So if you use any custom service that's not in here already, because it's 3 lines per signature, there's 460 signatures, 460 lines of code here. I don't know, they have like 150 signatures or something like that. So they have a considerable amount of signatures already. But if you use any special service, you can add them here, okay? So this got our attention at Paddy Power Betfair. We wanted to somehow use this for ourselves, but unfortunately, we were unable to do so. Why, you may ask? So we weren't able to do so mainly for 2 reasons. First, the fact that it only works with GitHub. So it was hard to integrate this with our existing tooling. And that was obviously a key factor. Another reason was, as you see, this is the GIF version, but the way that the data is processed, developers push code, the code is already in source code, and then you are alerted. We felt that this wasn't proactive enough, okay? Because the way that Git works is like you already have the secrets in the code and in live production code, and only then you'll be alerted if anything went wrong. We would like it to be more proactive so that developers can interact at merge request level in case the tool finds anything that's relevant. And that's where Schbit comes from. Schbit is just a wordplay for Schgit for blue teams. We felt that our approach was more appropriate for blue teams in the sense that we changed a couple of things, but the 2 essentials of Schgit are still the same. First, we kept a very minimalistic regular expression matching engine, and we kept the configuration file. We changed a few things, as you can see here, like blacklists or ignore lists, now more politically correct in 2020. We have these ways to ignore files and extensions. You can still add extensions as you see fit, right? But there was one thing that we changed that is crucial, and that is how data is processed. For that, I've set up a toy project in GitLab that I'm going to quickly show you a live example. So this is a very minimalistic and unrealistic project, right? Because it only contains 2 files. And the first thing that it shows that it's really different is that it allows repository-based configuration, which was something that we wanted. This tool, or this kind of tool, must allow each project to tweak the tool at its own need, okay? So if I scroll to the bottom of the file, I've added one more signature here for this demo, which is like, let's say you really don't want any code or any file in this repository for this matter to have this pattern right here, which is something at mydomain.net, which is like my company email domain address, right? The way this works is through webhooks, okay? I've already set this up to speed the process. I can show you, but basically I'm using in Grok because I have the project set up locally. These are the 2 triggers that it requires. It's the push events and the merge request events. And let me start the server. That's important. Okay, off it goes. And now, imagine, I already did this before we started the presentation, but imagine that you had it like, this is a very dumb example again, but it shows for the demo. Imagine that somewhere in the code there's an addition that says someone added an email with that format that you didn't want, right? And if the developers are pushing the submission, this is where it shines, okay? It will start a pipeline in GitLab, right, it will fail because, as we'll see, the signature was caught. And if you hover on this button, notice that what it says here is the signature name that we wrote on the configuration file. And developers can now be aware that this change, might have something that you might not want to push forward. Okay, I think this was the great. How can I put this? This was what we wanted to achieve: full customizability and full-on integration with our development lifecycle, obviously, and also something that developers can easily work with, right? Because this configuration file is written in YAML. I think it's a very simple format to work with. There's a lot of documentation in there. And yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you guys. This project was only possible thanks to two things. First and foremost, the support of Petty Power Betfair. And I would like to take a moment to appreciate everyone who made this possible, either by supporting the AppSec engineering team to work on this, and even those who helped prepare this presentation and make this possible. And the other factor that made this possible was the fact that Schgit was open source, okay? And that's one of the reasons we wanted to keep this scanner as open source. In the near future, we will be working on new features. We will plan a roadmap and post it online. We are expecting public contributions. Everybody's more than welcome to submit new features, submit issues, talk with us, let us know what you think, of course. And yeah, I think that's it from my end.
Thank you, Gustavo. It's really interesting. And since when did you start working on this tool?
Literally about a year ago.
Okay.
And I'm considering the time that we started the research. So we did this in several phases, right? So we started trying to learn how the tool works, what's integrated in it, what's possible, what's not possible, how we feel about all those, and what we could do about it. And then the second phase of this was actually start almost from scratch so that we could integrate it with our tooling.
And are you planning, this can also help somehow hackers to find vulnerabilities in existing code. How do you manage this? How do you see it?
That's true, and that's how I feel about Schgit, because actually the news feeds that Schgit popped up were red teaming stuff, so to say. They are responsible about it because they have a huge disclaimer like, please don't use this for evil stuff, and if you do, you're on your own. We're not responsible for any of that. And that's yeah, in summary, that's why we wanted to build something more into proactively help us reduce the amount of this risk.
I see. Okay. So we don't have I think we are good.
Great. Yeah, if you have any questions, any of you can find us on GitHub. There's the Petty Power Betfair organization that you can check and contribute to any of the public repositories. Anyone is more than welcome to submit any patches, issues, or just
okay. So there is a Petty Power Betfair on GitHub where people can join on your project and also other projects, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Sounds cool. I didn't know. Okay, thank you very much, Gustavo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are looking forward to see more updates about it in the magazine. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.